everyone, welcome to this video about my Zentangles that I use for my trackers. I posted this picture on Instagram and Facebook about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, and it was the breakdown of how I do different Zentangles in my trackers so that it's just a lot more fun than just coloring the box or putting an X through it. And I asked if anyone would like a video, and I got some response that they would. So this is going to be my attempt at showing you how to break them down. So we're going to try and switch it to a side view so you can see me drawing them, and we'll go through each one of these and how it works. All right, so here we go. Okay, so here we are on the side view, so I'm hoping this will work. This is my first time at side view, so we'll see how it goes. So the first one that we're going to do is like an alternative diagonal lines. So basically you draw a diagonal line between the two dots that you're going to do for the square, and then you do a small line and an even smaller line, and then below it you're going to go the opposite direction. So again, connect the two dots, and then you join the two lines, and then do the opposite one. So you would keep going down, and it would zigzag all the way down for your habit tracker for the day. And then the next day when you come, you make sure that you alternate again. So again, connecting the two dots, and then connecting your lines like that, and then so then you end up having nope, I didn't finish this one. There you go. So then you end up having a triangle, and if you do what I did for this one, is that if you darken the big middle line that connects the dots, you end up having a big triangle that kind of jumps out at you with these little lighter lines in the middle, and it turns out really nice. The next one ends up kind of like being like a pillowy, almost like a cushion. So if this line is the line of the day, the way I would do this one, I would end up doing two little curves, and that would mean that I accomplished that task that day, or that habit that I was tracking. And the next one down, I would do the same thing, and it would just keep going down like that all day. So I would just kind of do like a little bit of a curve, and then when you come the next day and add it, it ends up looking kind of like a pillowy cushion, like where these would be, where the dots are, it looks like there would have been buttons almost. And then it ends up looking like it's a square, but it looks like a rounded square, and it ends up giving it dimension, and it ends up being a really fun pattern for your Zentangle habit tracker. So the next one is a little bit more complicated, and it takes a lot of brain power for me to do this one when I'm doing my habit tracker for the first probably 2 or 3 days, and then once it gets going, then the pattern seems to emerge. So the way I try to remember to do it is that you always are going in to the box that you're ticking for your habit. So I'm going in on both sides for this. So this habit, if I had a habit here, I'd say, yes, I've accomplished it, and both lines go in and around so that the skinny part is facing towards the box of the habit that you're actually accomplished. Hopefully that makes sense. Then you need to switch this so that it's going, instead of vertical, it's going to go horizontal. So same idea though, your curves go into the habit that you're checking. So now we have one going up and down and one going sideways. And then my next habit, I would go up and down, and again the curve goes into the box that I'm checking for the habit. Hopefully that's clear. So tomorrow when I come and I want to check my habit, I'm going to go horizontal, because this one was vertical, so I'm going to go horizontal, the opposite, and I'm going to make sure my curves go into the box of the habit that I'm tracking. And then the following one would go in, and now I have to turn to horizontal again, and so the curves go in, and it ends up being a fantastic, fun tangle for your habit trackers. It ends up being absolutely beautiful. But it is you have to be very mindful about which way you're drawing it the first couple of times. Okay, I hope that one's clear. If not, please put any questions below and I'll try to explain it better. The next one is called frames, and the way it works, you draw a little box in the corner, and the first day you're going to do this. You draw a little box and then you draw 2 lines like that. So that's your pattern. Now it's how to flip it and change it so that it works for the holes and tangles. So your first day, all your boxes are on the bottom, but you alternate sides. So this second track or habit that I'm tracking is going to go on the opposite side, but it's still on the bottom. So my third item I'm tracking at the bottom, but it went back to the first one. Then when I come back the second day, what I do is now they're all on the top. So this one goes on the top here. Same pattern, but now it's on the top. And then now I switch sides, so now it's on top on the other side. And then I draw my 2 lines to make a box around. And then the third habit I'm tracking goes back to the opposite side. There we go. So that's the next one. Okay, WZ. The way WZ works is that every time there's a dot, you draw a little box and you color it in. So if this was for today, I'd color in all the little dots into boxes first. And even if you don't end up tracking, like that habit doesn't end up being something you completed, the little boxes still look pretty cool that they're there. And again, this is the same sort of thing as we did up here, is that the lines are on the inside of the boxes for the habit that you're tracking. And you go from vertical to horizontal on the inside, and then back to vertical on the inside, and then horizontal on the inside of the box that you're tracking. And then tomorrow, I come back and I go on the inside, and then I go horizontally opposite of what I did the day before, and then vertical, and then you go inside, horizontal, inside, vertical. And it ends up being a weave pattern, and that one is beautiful. Okay, hopefully everybody's okay so far. I should point out that I'm using a Micron 01 pen, and it's a very, 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 I don't know if it's going to focus on that tiny tip. I also have a 0.8 Sharpie pen here, but I think I'll stick with this one. And the notebook that I'm using is a Rhodia notepad, and it's just the A5 size. It's a small one. Okay, so the next one is called Quixley, and the way that I draw this one is it has a swirl that goes on the diagonal. So you go from that dot to that dot with a little hook at the top, and then you just add your normal, let me see how this goes, normal diagonal, but not right to the point, about halfway. And then this little triangle at the bottom ends up being colored in. So then the second habit that you're going to track, you do it a flip image of it. So you do the swirl up, and then you go from the point of the diagonal and you meet, and then you would color in that one. And then again, swirl down, and then you would color that one in. And then on the next day following, you mirror it. So it's a swirl, then a diagonal, and you would color that side, that triangle, and then up. And this one's going down again. That one I made too big. There we go. So that's Quixley, I think is how you imagine it. And then this one is just switching your lines vertical for horizontal. So to make it look nice, you would do the two outer boxes first and then divide it as equally as you possibly can. Then you alternate it and you go horizontal. Same thing. You're going to do your two outer ones first and then divide it as equally as you can. And then when you come back the second day, you start the opposite. You do horizontal first and then divide it evenly. And then again down and then you divide it evenly. So, and then it would end up having outer edges. So it looks going back and forth. The next one is called Amber, and it's basically the same. You don't have to worry about flipping or changing. It's basically you do a square, tangle all the way in, and you just keep repeating that for every box. Try as best to be, the way these work is if you are uniform as much as possible. So if you can keep them looking as much the same as possible, then they turn out looking really cool because you've got the same pattern every time. Okay, the next one I love, and I did this one in varieties of yellows, oranges, and reds, and it looked so beautiful, and it's called DL Sunrise. So basically you make a tiny little triangle and with a curve. I made it with a curve. And then you take from the middle of the diagonal, you cut that, and then from the dots you do the outer edges, and then you cut those in half. And you get a little sunrise. So again, it would be exactly the same for every day, same as this one. It looks exactly the same. So you do the little curve, you do the outer edges, the one in the middle, and then you cut those in half. And then it looks really uniformed, and it looks so beautiful when you do. I definitely post that on my Instagram if you want to look. I started with yellows, and then it went into oranges and then reds, and it was beautiful. It was so much fun to do that one. Okay, I think next one is my absolute favorite, and looks really complicated, but it's actually really easy. So the middle of your box that you're tracking, you put a little dot right in the middle, and then bring this up here a little bit, and then you start at the corner dot and you go up, you go down, and you kind of wrap around the dot a little bit, and always wrap around to the same side. So I'm wrapping around to the right. So the next dot corner, I start there and I wrap around to the right, and then the corner, wrap around to the right, corner, wrap around to the right. So when you have one, it looks like a pinwheel, and that's what it's called, is pinwheel. So we'll do a few, and you'll see, wrap around to the right, you'll see that it ends up looking like a really neat interlacing kind of, it's not really a weave, but it's, I guess, a little bit of a weave. I'm going to do a couple more. So you can see the pattern emerge. It's amazing that this pinwheel pattern allows this kind of weave pattern to emerge. And I hope you can see that, how beautiful that ends up turning out. And it's just a pinwheel. So again, it's a dot in the middle, and you just go from the corners into the dot and wrap around one way. So I wrap around to the right. So you start with this pinwheel, and then you end up, when they are all connected, looking like that, which is, I think, is amazing. Zentangle, really easy, but looks so complicated. The next one is like a little flower. So basically, like the first one, you draw a fairly thick diagonal line, and then you do a little curve on both sides, and then another little curve. I think maybe I should have been tilting it this whole time. So that's how it ends up looking. But when you start joining them, so the next habit you do as the alternative direction. Oops. And then same with the next day, you would do it the opposite direction. And it turns out looking like a little flower. This is the one I'm doing this month, and it's pretty fun. So it ends up looking kind of like a little flower when you do that. The next one is called Shard. I haven't actually done this one yet, but I'm looking forward to doing it. So you do the outer box and a diagonal line, and then you cut those so it almost looks like a bit of a snowflake, really. And then you alternate it, so you go back the opposite way. All right, and then if I do the next day, alternate it. So on the same line, it's actually going the same way. But once you do a whole bunch, it starts to look like you have, it's going, this middle line will zigzag down, and then, so it turns out to be a really cool pattern as well. The next one is one that I made up, which I can't wait to do. I think it'll be really pretty. So what you do is on the box that you're gonna track, you start with a big line, and then every line going towards the other side ends up getting smaller. So it looks like that. And then you alternate it. So the next one, you would start on the opposite side with the big line and then make it go smaller. And then when you come the next day, you would, and you're tracking, you grow it. And then you shrink it so that it ends up looking like that. So you went from big to little, and then little to big, going down, and then the next day when you came back, you went little to big, and then big to little, so that it ends up going back and forth. I'm excited to start that one. I just made that up, and I think it's pretty cool. The next one is called Arrowheads, and it's basically triangles that on the one day you do the same triangle the whole day, or so you go the same direction. So you just made a triangle like that, and then you repeated it. And then when you come back the next day, you do the triangle mirroring it. Like that. So it's the opposite direction now. You can see that. And I think if you did this one in alternating colors or like a spread of colors, that would turn out really cool too, because you would start to see that inner box as being the pattern. That pattern would jump out as well as the triangles that you drew. So I think that's pretty fun. The next one is basically a variation of this one, and it's the last one. So within the box that you're doing, you do your outer boxes, and then you would do a thicker line in the middle. So you make a middle line that's kind of thicker, and then you alternate directions like that, and then you make a thicker line in the middle. And then the next day when you come back, you're going to go horizontal again. Make a thicker line in the middle. I think my camera's shaking. I hope it hasn't been shaking the whole time. And then down like that. I'm just going to close these in so it looks like a pattern. So it looks like that in the end. So a variation of this one. You can kind of see how it's a variation, but just a little bit different. So that's the Zentangle little video that I'm going to do about how I break down how I use my Zentangles within my trackers. If you have any questions or if you need any clarification or would you like me to draw something again, just let me know and in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer. Hope you're having a great day.